Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Life Minutes. We are now back studying the life of Christ. Today I want to share about Jesus and the power over sin. In John chapter 11, Christ receives a message from his friends Mary and Martha that their brother Lazarus has died. Jesus was very close to these two sisters and their brother. They were good friends of his. By the time Jesus arrived at the town of Bethany, Lazarus had been dead for a few days. And this is what we read in John chapter 11 when Christ came on the scene. It tells us in verse 35 that Jesus wept. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying?" When you read that verse, Jesus wept, you might think, why in the world did Christ break down in tears at the tomb of Lazarus? Well, what Christ was seeing and obviously knew about was that he saw what the result of man's rebellion against God was. It always leads to sin and death, and he hated it as much as we do. That's why he came to die on a cross and to raise from the dead. And so as he saw the tomb, that picture, that reality again, which was always before him, because he came to bring healing to people's lives, spiritually speaking. So he's at the tomb, and it breaks his heart because he sees the result of man's turning their back on God. But not only that, Lazarus was his friend. But I want to say this: death is not the final say in our lives. Sin and death do go hand in hand, but let me just ask us to consider the following. First, if we're a follower of Jesus, we will one day be with him. We know that. Our future is assured. But a second and very important point for us that are still here on this planet is, since we all still struggle with sin, Jesus' point here in John 11 is that he is the resurrection, he is the life. And for you and I, as followers of Christ, we need to remember that the same power that raised Christ from the dead indwells his followers, which enables us to deal with sin in our life. That's what Romans 6 is about. And in John 11, when he raises Lazarus from the dead, this is a picture of what he's going to do in the future for all who are followers of Christ. But for those of us living today with that struggle of sin in our lives, remember that Christ died for us and rose from the dead, and we can have victory over sin also. So I want to just say this: live who we are. Sin and death do not have the final word. You and I, as followers of Jesus, can live without sin controlling us through our relationship with Christ. That same resurrection power that raised Jesus from the dead and that he used to raise Lazarus indwells us. And we have a new life in Christ. We've been raised with him, and we can live victorious. Study Romans 6. Believe what it says. These are all facts that are laid out in Romans 6, and then apply them. And Romans 6 even tells us how to do that. Just wanted to share that with you. It's just something to think about. God bless and have a